Loops in Java are very much like they were in Python. We have three different types of loops. The for loop, where you know exactly how many times to do something. A while loop, where you check at the beginning of the loop to see if you want to do something. And a do loop, where you check at the end to see if you want to keep going. So a for repeats a certain amount of times. A while something is true, you do it. And a do while, you do until something changes. So the format, we usually use a counter, often I, J, and K. Put your starting value, semicolon. As long as your counter is less than or equal to your end value, semicolon, increase your counter. Steps to be repeated are inside the starting and ending bracket. You will notice there's no semicolon at the end. The reason for that, if you put a semicolon at the end, you're saying it ends right here, which means the for loop does nothing. So watch out for that. The while loop says while some condition is true, do the following steps. Notice again, no semicolon. If there's a semicolon there, the while loop ends here and nothing happens. Your do while, do the following steps while the condition is true. This one has a semicolon because here we are at the end. So again, this repeats a certain number of times. This one works checking at the top. This one works by checking at the bottom. Let's look at that for loop. Here's an example. We can declare a variable I, which is an integer, start it at 1, repeat while we're less than or equal to 10, and this code is shorthand for I equals I plus 1. So I equals I plus 1 is condensed to I plus plus. So this just says you're going up by 1. If you want to go up by more than 1, you would change that. And then we just have all the code that we want to repeat. You can choose to declare I here, or you could have added I to the list up here and declared your variable just like you declare anything else. So it really depends how many loops we're doing. If we're doing a bunch of them, I tend to declare it here. If I'm only doing one, I might just declare it inside the loop. Again, no semicolon. So what that code would do, it would start with number 1, add it into sum, and then increase your number. So after 1, the next number would be 2, added into sum, we get 3. Next number would be 3, added into sum, we get 6. Next number would be 4, added into sum, we get 10, and we just do that 10 times. So this is counting up. What if you want to count down? If you want to count down, you start at some value, and as long as you are bigger than or equal to your end value, then you repeat your steps. If I plus plus increases your counter, take a guess at what you think decreases it, it would be I minus minus. So you can count up with a loop or count down. The things that change, these symbols, and the I plus plus and the I minus minus. Let's look at a while loop. While some condition is true. For example, we might be guessing a number, and while the guess is not right, we're going to keep asking for a number. And it'll keep going as long as the guess is incorrect. Let's look at a do while. We could do the same thing we did before and do while the guess is not correct. So what's the difference between the two? This one you must enter. There's no check at the beginning to see if you have to do it or not. Everyone must enter this loop, and then you check at the bottom if you keep going. The other one, it was you had to check before you ever entered the loop. So you just ask yourself if you're checking at the top or the bottom of the loop. Do you want people to do this at least once or perhaps not at all? Now let's look at the possible conditions. What do the conditions look like? The one we had was while the guess is incorrect. The other conditions, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, equal, equal, not equal. And in this language, instead of using A and D, we use ampersand, ampersand. And instead of using or, you use 2 of these. That was a typo, I'm afraid. That's not actually there. Looks like 2 of those. Where do you find them? On my keyboard, it's above the Enter key. So very much like what we did in Python. All right, go have some fun with your assignments.